Hi and welcome to this tutorial on making burning vehicle markers. There's lots of methods of making these, but this is the way I do it. The first thing you're going to need is some teddy bear fur. You can get this most places. I'll put a link for this and some of the other equipment in the description below so you can get hold of it. And you take small chunks of this, you can form it easily with your hands. Pull it out to the desired length. I'm doing 15mm tanks here, so I probably want something about that big. That's what, 2 to 3 inches high. I'm going to make 5 of these, so that's one. Pull up my second bit here. So 2. These could be very rough and ready. Don't worry too much about how they look at this point. You can always form them into any shape you want. I've seen people using these as explosions in places. It's something I'm going to learn myself how to do at some point, because I think they look pretty good. And the final one you can see here, I now have 4 what look like plumes of white smoke. I'll put these into my spray box. I use this just so I can actually spray away and not get too much spray paint everywhere. And the next thing you're going to need is some red spray. This is Wilko's gloss spray paint. You can pretty much use any as long as it's red. I've also got some latex gloves on as well for the spraying. And simply shake up your rattle can. Get that paint flying nice and easily in there, and then spray each one of these. I'm using the latex gloves so I don't get too messy on my hands, because it takes gloss paint is a bit hard to get off. You can just do this quite easily. You don't have to go mad. This, you can see here exactly why I'm using the spray box. And as you can see on the latex gloves, it does get very messy very quickly. So just quickly, don't worry if you're not getting full coverage. You don't need it. You just want, this is just really to show the flames of the burning. Ooh, come off. So that's your first part. Then we take our black spray. This is barbecue and wood stove because it's all they had in, but any matte black will do perfectly fine here. Give this again another good shake up. Really make sure you can hear that rattle. And again, back to the messy parts. Now you want to do a little bit more coverage with the black, just so you can actually see the red kind of coming through in places. But you don't want to cover all of the white, because you want that kind of greyish colour. Don't worry too much about making a mess of the actual plumes at this point, because once these are dried up, they will soon form back into a shape that you want. That little bit of white to go over there. The thing with the black and the white is that it really gives you a good greyish mix, which smoke is not a single colour. Obviously do your spraying in a well ventilated room. Probably don't have to tell you that, but there you are. People need to know. So there's your now. Give that last little bit of coverage on that white there, and then now you can see that they've got some red, they've got some black. It's quite mixed. That's all you need to do for the spraying. Then we move on to painting the flames. Here I'm using Decor Art Crafters Acrylic. You can use any you want, this is just yellow. This is a relatively cheap paint that I use for a lot of highlighting and things. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking the paint off, so you can see in the lid. And again, these things dry pretty quickly, so you can work quite fast with these. And I'm not even going to paint this, I'm literally dipping this into the yellow paint to give you those yellowish flame. Just dab it on there so you've got the sparks and bits and pieces. Next one. Again, using latex gloves here just to keep my hands nice and clean. Working our way through all of these. You do not have to be neat at all. Anyway, here, just literally, just to give the impression of something burning at the bottom. And although we only just sprayed these, they're drying already because the teddy bear fur quickly absorbs any of the paints. And there's a burning section. Let's not forget to put our lids back on our paints so they don't dry. And then our very last stage is using these MDF counters, these little round ones. These are 20mm. You can use any size you want. Obviously it depends on what size tanks or what size vehicles you're using or what you're actually using these burning markers for. These I find fit perfectly onto 15mm tanks. So I now use some Wilco PVA adhesive. This again can be any kind of PVA. Literally a blob of this. Just to say, if you wanted to, you can paint the bases. It might be good to paint them black. I'm just using them as they are. These I think came from Sally Forth, but there's plenty of manufacturers out there that make 20mm size bases for next to nothing. So your next thing is to take your plume of smoke, kind of push it flat at the bottom and literally sit it on the base. You don't have to use these bases, but they do make the plumes stand up a lot easier if you do. So here we go with the other ones. Last couple there. Still a bit wet, but never mind that. That will dry. And then literally leave them to dry somewhere they won't be disturbed. PVA dries pretty quick. The paint also dries pretty quick. I would leave them for 24 hours though, just to be sure, and then everything will have dried on them. And as I say, if you really wanted to, you could paint the base of those in black, just to disguise it a bit. But as you can see, you can barely see it anyway. Oops, just pulled that one off. You can barely see it anyway on the actual finished plume. Stand up straight, there you go. And that is how you do these.